Okay, so let's talk about sandbox refreshes. We all agree that it's the worst, right? And of all the reasons we don't like to refresh our sandboxes, the most common one is that we lose all of our test data. All that time we spent creating test records for all of the various objects we use right down the drain. So what do we do instead? We roll the dice. We keep working on request after request after request without refreshing our sandbox. Eventually, we overwrite and break something in production because we didn't have that functionality in our sandbox because we didn't refresh it. So today I'm going to show you how to use a tool in the Salesforce toolbox called Execute Anonymous to easily and quickly create test data every time you refresh your sandbox. So let's get started. As is the case with all my training videos, I'm going to be doing this in a Scratch org. So you're going to need to have your SFDX project created, and you're going to need to spin up a Scratch org. If you need help doing that, there's a link in the description below to my video that walks you through that process step by step. So I'm going to start by opening up VS Code, and then I need to open up my project folder. So I'm going to click on the Explorer icon, which is going to open up the side panel. And I'm going to open my project folder. And you just need to navigate to where your project is. Mine is inside this projects folder called Demo. Click on Demo and click Open. This is going to open up my SFDX project. The command to open up an org is sfdx space force:org:open. Now you can see in the bottom left corner here, my Scratch org, which I named Scratch, is my default org right now. So I could hit enter here and it would open up my Scratch org. Now, if your Scratch org is not your default org, that's all right. You can add on a -u space and the name of your Scratch org, and that will open your org for you. For the purposes of this demo, I've created a custom field on the contact object called VIP. I gave it a name, gave it a description, gave it some help text, and I'm going to use that a little bit later on in the demo. To get to the Execute Anonymous tool, you're going to click on the gear icon here in the upper right-hand corner and click on Developer Console. Inside the Developer Console, you're going to click on Debug in the menu going across the top, and right here at the top is Open Execute Anonymous window. This is where we're going to execute our code snippet that's going to create our records for us. Now, there are 3 different ways that I'm going to show you to create a record. I'm going to show you how to just create a single record. I'm going to show you how to create a list of records. And then I'm going to show you how to use a for loop to create your list of records before inserting them. So let's get into that. So first up, I'm going to create an account. Now, sometimes the object that you're working on, or the object that you want to create a record in, is going to have record types in it. And so if your object has record types, you need to define the record type ID when you create your record. So I wanted to show you this in this demo, so I went ahead and created a couple of record types for the account so that I could show you how to do this. So this first little line, this is going to become your best friend. Basically, I'm creating a string variable. I call my string account rec type ID, and then we have this long method here. The only 2 things I want you to worry about is this first area here. You put in the name of your object, and then this last area here, you put the name of your record type. And this is then going to store the record type ID in this string for me called account rec type ID. So to create the account, I'm going to start by creating an account sObject variable, which I call here ACC, equals new account, open close parenthesis with a semicolon at the end. Now all of the information that I need in this account is going to go inside the parentheses. So here I'm defining a number of values for fields within the account. On the left-hand side of the equals, you have the field name. on the right-hand side of the equals, you have the value that I want to assign. So you see where I'm putting in the record type ID that I got and stored in that string. I'm giving my account a name and putting in a phone number, address information, giving it an account number and some annual revenue information. Here you would put in any relevant information that you need for your test records. Now at this point, I have an account created in memory, but this account, if I were to go into Salesforce, if I were to execute the code just like this and go into Salesforce, I would not find this account because I haven't done what's called a DML statement. DML stands for Data Manipulation Language, and it is when your code actually interacts with the Salesforce database itself by doing an insert or an update or a delete or something like that, taking action on the database itself. So after creating my account record, my last step is to put my DML statement, insert ACC, and that will create my account. Next up, I want to create two contacts that are related to the account that I just created. But let's talk about DML statements for a minute. When you're working with Salesforce code, you want to limit the number of DML statements you have. Now, DML statements are specific to an object, so I couldn't include both account records and contact records in one insert statement. But now that I want to create two contacts, rather than doing an insert on each one of those individually, I can do an insert on a list of records, and that counts as just one DML statement for me. So let me show you how I do this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blank list of contacts. So the important thing here to understand is inside these carets, this is the name of your object, and then you give the list of contacts whatever name you want. I've called mine contacts here. From here, it's going to look pretty similar to what you just saw. I'm going to create a contact that I name Sheldon. Now, as you can tell, I'm a big Bang Theory fan. And so I use their characters as my test data. You use whatever you want. So like the account, I'm going to take some of the contact records that I'm interested in and give them some values. And then I'm going to take this contact, and instead of doing an insert here, I am going to add this contact to my list of contacts. So this is done by putting the name of your list, which mine is contacts, dot add, and then the name of your single contact variable, which for me is Sheldon. So I now have one contact record in my list of contacts. Now I'm going to create a second contact record. I'm going to call this one Leonard. Same as before, put in some information that I'm interested in, and I'm going to add it to my list of contacts as well. So now, like with the accounts, we have a list of contacts that's got two contacts in it, and these exist in memory. But again, if I were to go into Salesforce right now and try to find these contacts, I wouldn't find them yet because I haven't done my DML. So at the end of this, I'm now going to insert contacts, which is the name of my list of contacts, and that will insert these two contacts into Salesforce. Now let me point out one thing here at the top of each of these contacts. I have the account ID equals acc.id. You remember that ACC was the name of the account record that I created. So when I created that account, the ID variable became available to me and I could use it to assign to these contacts. Lastly, I want to create 10 opportunities that are all related to my account. Now I could go through like I did for contacts and I could create 10 different opportunity variables, add them all to a list, and then insert that list. But I'm going to show you how to use a for loop to easily create as many as you want. So first up, like I did for contacts, I'm going to create a list of opportunities that is just blank. So you can see inside the carets, this time I have the opportunity object in there, and I have named this list opportunities. Now I'm going to create a for loop, and let me show you how this works. There's 3 statements inside the definition of your for loop. The first one is your init statement, where you initialize the variable that you're going to use through your loop. The second one is the exit statement, meaning while this is true, this loop is going to keep going, and as soon as this is no longer true, your loop will exit. The last one is the increment statement, where you tell it how to increment your variable. And the x++ indicates that I just want the variable x to increase by 1 each time it goes through the loop. So whatever I put here inside the loop is going to happen 10 times. So this is where I'm going to create my opportunity records. So like before, I create an opportunity SObject variable, and I'm going to fill it with the data that is meaningful to me. You can see again, I'm defining the account ID, and then I have some other information that I want to populate, and I'm using that X variable to get some different amounts, different close dates, and different names on these records that I'm creating. And still inside the loop, I'm adding that opportunity to my list of opportunities. But you can see here that I do not have the DML statement inside the loop. We definitely want to avoid that, because that would then mean that I'm going to get 10 inserts if I were to have that inside my for loop. So that's going to go through 10 times, create me 10 opportunities, and add them into my opportunities list, and then it's going to exit out of this loop. So once it has exited, I am then going to run my DML, insert opportunities, and this is going to insert the 10 opportunities I've created within this loop into Salesforce. All right, now let's put it all together in Execute Anonymous and run it. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get my record type ID, and I'm going to create my 2 empty lists, contacts and opportunities. I'm going to create my account first, because I need that ID in my contacts and opportunities, so it has to be first. Next, I'm going to put in my 2 contact records, Sheldon and Leonard. And last, I'm going to put in my 10 opportunities. So if we just scroll here from the top, so the first thing I do is I get my account record type ID, and I create 2 blank lists, one for contacts, one for opportunities. I then create my account record, my contact records using the account ID in the contact, and finally my 10 opportunities also using the account ID in each of the opportunities. To execute this bit of code, you click the execute button here in the bottom right corner. And that's it. You did it. When this runs successfully, you get a success message here in the logs in the developer console. So let's jump into Salesforce and take a look at our records. We're in the setup area here, so I'm going to I'll just open up the sales app. And let's jump into our accounts. And there is our Caltech Physics Department account that we created. If you click on that, you can see we've got our 2 related contacts, Sheldon Cooper and Leonard Hofstetter, with the information that I put in about them. And we have our related opportunities here. We can see 6, but if we click on View All, we can see all 10 of the opportunities that we created. So we just created 13 new records. Now an average Salesforce administrator or developer may take 13 DML statements to accomplish that, but you are no average Salesforce admin or developer, and you were able to accomplish this with just 3 DML statements. Nice job. So that's it. You now know how to use Execute Anonymous to very quickly and easily create test records for yourself. Now the great thing is once you get this actually set up for your org and for the test data that you need, you can just save that script. And every time you spin up a new Scratch org, or every time you refresh your sandbox, just copy that script, paste it into Execute Anonymous, hit execute, and your test data is ready for you. Okay, so here's your training session for this week. First, you're going to create 1 account. But I want you to create a text field on the account record, and I want you to push data to that custom text field. Second, you're going to create 2 cases that are related to that account. But I want you to create a number field on the case object, and I want you to push data to that number field. Lastly, you're going to create 10 orders using a for loop. But I want you to create 2 different record types on the order object, one called B2B, one called B2C, and I want your 10 orders to all be of the B2B record type. All right, now get to work on that training session. And until next time, remember, every cloud needs a silver lining. It might as well be you.